Hello, everyone. This is the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, sponsored by Never Too Late Cafe. I'm Laura Womack, your host, and I have a very special guest with me today, and I'm going to have her introduce herself and tell us where she's currently living.
Hi,
Judith.
I'm Judith Wade, and I am living in Kent, Ohio currently. I've lived in Indiana before and also Colorado, but right now I'm in Kent, Ohio. And I'm a writer, a Reiki practitioner and teacher. I'm an animal communicator, and I do something called energy drawings, which are like readings. People really enjoy those. I like doing those. And I started writing stories as a kid and just became more interested as an adult, like a young adult. And I've been doing Reiki. I had to count it up. I wasn't quite sure. I had to look at my Reiki certificate. But I've been doing Reiki for 25 years and
Oh,
animal communication for about 15 years. And then the energy drawings for about 10 years.
so
So
we're
it's
just going
been,
to kind of break down your story and go one by one because you have such a diverse background of things that you do. Um, just before we get to that, another person that was on the podcast last year was John Lynn, and he referred you. So let's start with how you met John because it's very different. We had a chat about that. So tell us that story.
okay. Well, I met John. Well, it started way, way back. I had heard about this music event called the Folk Festival. It takes place in Lyons, Colorado. It's put on by Planet Bluegrass. They also do the Telluride Festival and the Rocky Grass. So I had heard about that, and I knew there was going to be a musician there that I liked. So I was kind of following him out there. He'd even suggested that I come. So I was following him out there with the hopes of something would happen. But right before I went, he had messaged me and said, I met this girl. But I still went. I thought, I am still going out there. I've got my ticket. I'm still going to go. So I flew out from Indiana to Colorado. I stayed with a friend's sister to kind of get settled in, got my rental car, and went out to the festival. And then I met another woman out there in the bathroom who had also followed a musician out there. And we got talking and we loved the festival and we wanted to be more on the inside of things. So she had the idea that we could do Reiki there, but we didn't want to miss out on the festival because we wanted to hear the concerts and the songwriters. So we had this idea that we would do Reiki at the song school, which precedes the festival. So I put together a business proposal and I matched dollar for dollar and I said how they could benefit, and they brought both of us on, and she did it with me for a little while and then she dropped out, but I've been doing that for 20 years. So something good did come out of that. But I think, and I haven't missed a year except for COVID. There was one year I was going to miss, and I even lived in Colorado, and Amy Spees told me, you cannot miss a year. And I'm like, you're right. I don't want to lose my spot. So I've been doing that for 20 years. And that's where I met John. He was out there, during song school as one of the students.
So song school is where they actually learn how to, or does it give them tips or they just create at the same time, or how does that work?
There's classes all day. So it might be on like, I'm usually doing Reiki, but I've looked at the program. So they're learning how to write songs. They're learning probably how to produce, maybe the business end of music. I think there was a workshop on CAFO. So there's all sorts of classes going on throughout the day. It's 4 days. There's like an open mic every night, Monday through Thursday. There's a disco party on Wednesday. So it's just you're immersed in this music, and I love music myself. So this is like heaven for me. I get to do Reiki, get to listen to music and be among creatives. So it's like my I love doing it. It's like my little adult summer camp and like my
So,
music family.
so how long does it normally last? Like 4 days or so? I can't, I was thinking it was, but I'm not sure.
Yes, the song school is 4 days, Monday through Thursday, and then the festival starts. It's that Friday, Saturday, Sunday right after. So it's
Wow.
and most people stay for the festival. Some people go home, but it's so it can be like a week long
Wow.
adventure.
Well, I'd heard of Song School, but I honestly did not know that there was a festival with it. Um, because a lot of people attend, but they don't necessarily get on the stage and get to play, you know.
Right.
So interesting. So not everyone knows exactly what Reiki is. Can you kind of describe? I know it's an energy medicine, but can you give us a little more background on that?
Yeah, it's an energy modality that works well. It reduces stress, helps with like anxiety and stress. And I can't remember where I read it, but 95% of the reasons why we go to the doctor are somehow related to stress. So the Reiki helps reduce stress, and it also works on all levels. So it works on an emotional level, physical level, a mental level. So if you're working through emotions and trying to process those, or sometimes we shove down our emotions and don't want to deal with them, the Reiki can help bring those emotions to the surface, or they can help you process through emotions more gently. So it might be during like a time of grief, or maybe a breakup, or a big, some kind of transition in your life. It can also help physically. There was one lady at song school who thought I was going to be doing massage because I had a massage table. And so she signed up for the Reiki. And afterwards, she goes, well, I'll have to tell you the truth. I signed up because my back hurt and I thought you were doing massage. She goes, but my back feels better. So it actually can help alleviate some like physical, like pains and ailments, things like that. And then mentally, like if you're like me, like I have that monkey mind, that racing mind. Sometimes I'm overthinking. So it can help like calm down that mind, almost like meditation does the same thing. Reiki can do the same thing, help calm down that mind. And there is a thought, um, Louise Hayes she was from, I can't remember what year her book came out, but the thought was physical ailments have an emotional root. They start like on an emotional root. So each physical ailment has an emotion attached to it. So the Reiki works on not just the surface of the physical, but gets down to the emotion, the core of what's really going on. So I think headaches are maybe sometimes indecision. So it can help, the Reiki's maybe going to help provide clarity. So maybe then that helps alleviate the headache. So it's almost like if you had a dandelion, you were going to just chop off the head, it might grow back again. So it gets to that root and it
Hmm.
just puts the body back into a state of homeostasis, puts it back into balance. And when the body's in a state of homeostasis, it knows how to heal itself to the person. Like I'm a conduit, and I always tell the people, you're the actual healer because your body knows how to heal itself.
I like that. I don't think I've ever heard it described quite like that. I mean, I've had treatments before and that sort of thing, but I haven't just heard it described quite like that. So,
Mhm.
so you've done, since we're on energy, what are the energy drawings? Is it something you see someone? I mean, that is something I really haven't heard of before.
It is, I'm drawing, like I have an outline of a person, and then in my mind's eye, I will see, maybe I'll see like an animal that could represent an animal totem. I might see patterns, I might see flames, but each image has a message attached to it. So I use colored pencils. So I kind of look at my colored pencils, I look at what color appeals to me, and I'll just pick it up. And then I'll just start drawing like an image or a pattern. And then I have to decipher what that image means. And so I write down that message and then I'll keep drawing. And so each image has a message attached to it. And it could be helping them with, it could be something that's already inherent in some quality within them that maybe they're not seeing. It could be advice or some kind of direction that's going to give them clarity. It could be something that they're aware of, and the energy drawing provides validation. So in a way, it's like a little reading, but I'm also drawing. I feel like a little kid. I'm usually on my floor when I'm doing my drawings, just like a
So,
kid.
so is this done in person or online, or how do you set up like an appointment somehow?
Yeah, I've done both. I was just in Indianapolis not too long ago, and I was doing those in person, but all I need is the person's name. So a lot of the drawings I do, which I have a whole stack of them because I've done those remotely. And so I just need their name and I do the drawing and then I email it back. And then if they want to go over it with me, if they have questions, need clarity, then I set up like a Zoom call or like phone if they want to do it just by phone. But it can be done so easily remotely. I have clients all over that have done the energy drawings.
So how do you if you just have their name, you don't even there's times that you don't have a voice to associate with it, or you just get a sensation, like you said, in your mind's eye. But that's interesting because you haven't talked to them yet on some of them.
Right. I think each name has, their own vibration. And I've emailed or sometimes I have talked to the person. So I'm just setting the intention that I'm going to tune in to that person's vibration, their energy, and people respond back. They're like, how'd you know that? You're spot on. So it's just, each name has a vibration. I think a lot of times when psychic readers do a reading with you, they ask you your full name a lot of times. And that's like because it has a vibration.
Hmm,
So I guess
it's
I'm tuning
interesting.
in to that vibration.
Well, not only have I not heard of energy drawings, but I didn't know that that would be your process. So it's very interesting. So, um, animal communication, one of the other things you mentioned. How
Mhm.
did you get started doing that?
That was a little bit of a process. When I was in my 20s, I was having a hard time. Well, I still have a hard time making decisions, but my friend said, you should come to these classes that I do because that will help you with your decision making. So I'm like, sure, I'll come. Well, it turned out to be intuitive classes, like psychic awareness classes, and it was a drop-in class. So I would go once a week, and our homework was we had to get messages for each other. And some lady said, you have a good connection with animals. You should do something with that. And I'm like, well, okay, I have no idea what that is, but I'll keep my eye out. So I was in Indiana at the time, and then I moved to Colorado. When I was in Colorado, I saw a flyer for a class for animal communication. I thought, well, maybe this is it. I always wanted to be a vet, couldn't do really the science classes, but maybe this is my calling. And so I took the class and it was a good class, but she was kind of like, you're already intuitive. So there was some direction and guidance, but I went on and learned from a woman named Anna Twinney. And it was just, it was like a telecom. It was like a telecall. So it was like 6 weeks. And she's out of Colorado. And I learned a lot from her. And after that, though, I was still not sure. Like, I wasn't real confident. So I would practice with other people's animals. I found another lady who did animal communication. She goes, you can practice with me because when it's your own animal, you're kind of too close to the subject. You can her dog was sick. She goes, I know what I want the answer to be, and I can tune in, but I just want to make sure I'm right. So she would
Mm,
tune in, get the answers, not tell me, and then I would do the same questions. And so with her saying that's what I got, that just built my confidence. So then I started just doing it with more people after her. But I was just kind of following the breadcrumbs. That's how I kind of got into it.
that is very interesting. So you're obviously with the owner. It's you're not doing your pets, you're doing someone else's. So, and
Yeah.
they validate that you're really getting what they think is going on or gives them some insight on what's going on.
Yeah, I've gotten feedback from people, and again, animal communication can be done in person or remotely. I just need the picture and the name of the animal. So again, I have clients all over, and I've gotten feedback on, oh, a big thing is like, going outside the litter box. And so, I've had people email me back or call me back or like that problem's gone, what you told me to do. Like one time she was a friend. She called me up and she goes, oh, the cat's going outside the litter box. I don't know what's going on. And so I talked to the cat, and the cat's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. I knew she'd call you. I just need you to, I need you to tell her like to slow down. She's working all the time. She's going to burn herself out. And then the cat goes, and I want to know what's going on. There seems to be a lot of changes happening in this house, and no one's telling me what's going on. So I told her, I said, you just need to at least promise to your cat that you'll try and slow down, and then just let the cat know what's going on. Like, are you guys gonna have a baby? Are you gonna be moving? Like, just let the cat know. And so she incorporated that, and then the cat stopped. So, but it could be as easy as, the litter box needs to be cleaned more, but it can be kind of different things. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, now I got to tell her this. This is crazy, but it's not, I guess.
So you get like a sentence, like it's not just a vague feeling. That sounds very, very specific.
Yeah, you can get, and I teach it too. So I tell my students it can be a sentence, like you may hear the animal talking, but it could be a feeling. You could feel what the animal's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends, her sister also does animal communication, and she goes, I can't do it like you and Diane. And we're like, yes, you can, because she felt everything her dog felt. Her dog had been in an accident, had trouble with its leg, and she said, yeah, some nights I wake up and my hand is up like it would be a paw that's up. And I look at my dog and same thing, her paw's up. And then I get the feeling that it hurts. So her ability was through feeling what the animal was feeling. You may
Mm-hmm.
get a visualization of something, you may get a picture may flash in your mind, and that could be the animal talking to you, or the one that's a little bit harder to just a knowing, like you just get a feeling for what the animal needs. And a lot of times people have that with their own animals. And that's communicating. It's using all your senses to
Mm.
get messages and then interpret those.
Not like when my dog has a lot of people food and then he barks and then takes me to the refrigerator.
Right.
That's not intuition. That's him letting me know.
Right.
Um, it really sounds like you have such a broad, all with knowing, multiple forms of knowing, because I know from what I know of Reiki, and then all of your things, their energy, work, and its communication and feelings and intuition and all that. So, do you find that you have sort of a stronger, I guess, psychic intuition as well? I mean, is that sort of part of it?
I think so. I think everybody does. And then, I took those classes, and I think that helped me develop those skills, or helped me be aware of that I had those skills and how to hone them. But I think everybody has them. And I think those classes help strengthen that. And when I get synchronicity, I always write it down in my journal,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can go back and see what that meant. And I think I think when you write things down like that, I think more things come to you. I think that's how my trip to Ireland and the UK came about, like all the things that happened there. I was using my intuition and tuning in because I wasn't sure where I was going to go exactly. I didn't have exact plans. I had some plans, but I was using a lot of my intuition when I was doing that. And I ended up, it was supposed to be a 2-month trip. My mom had died, my boyfriend had broken up. I had a part-time job at a health food store, but I was wanting to build my business. And my friend said, everyone was like feeling sorry for me, but she was not. She goes, well, for my mom, she was, but she said, you're free now. You can do whatever you want. What do you want to do? Like, you weren't even sure about this relationship. So I said, well, I really just want to go to Ireland for a couple months, if my job will let me, and then come back. Well, my job, they said, well, we can't let you go for 2 months, but we could let you go for 2 weeks. I said, that's not long enough. So I ended up quitting. And they're like, well, if your position is open when you get back, you can have it. So I first started out in the UK because I had met a couple when I was camping in Colorado, and they were from Kent, England. And they're like, anytime you make it over the pond, come visit. So I started with them.
The pond.
Yeah, the pond, the big pond. So I started with them, and then I went to Glastonbury, and then I stayed with friends of a friend, and I eventually made my way over to Ireland. And then I saw this thing I was Googling, and it was an Airbnb, and it was like a fairy tale getaway. And I'm like, it was just something that registered, like I have to go there. So I stayed with the couple. She was from Texas, he was from Ireland. I ended up eating breakfast, lunch, dinner. She invited me back for a full moon ceremony. And I said, well, I'll try and make it back. And I knew I had to come back. So I went to the full moon ceremony. Like, I did my other rounds. And then I had like 1 week left. So I asked the lady who hosted the full moon ceremony, I'm like, where should I go next? And she goes, well, I think you should go this place called Dogshimbera. It's a Buddhist center in the Ring of Beara, not too far from here. So I thought, well, okay, I don't know where else to go. So I went there, and they needed volunteers for room and board. And they're like, just don't get on your plane. Don't go back. And I'm like, I thought, well, okay, my roommate wasn't making me pay rent. I was renting a room out of her house. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a boyfriend. I thought, well, why not? I thought maybe I can teach Reiki and pay for my ticket back. So I ended up staying 8 months altogether. And that was just following my intuition to end up at that fairy tale getaway, and knowing I had to go back to that full moon ceremony. I didn't know why, but I knew I had to. So I think, yeah, I think we all have that, and you just got to like listen, pay attention, and not
Eight
say it's never.
months.
Yes.
So did you do Reiki? I mean, what did you do for a living? Because you had room and board paid for. So what
Mhm.
a free spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't that much money. Like, I had some inheritance money, so I'd use that for the trip just a little bit, but I didn't hardly spend any money when I was there at the Buddhist Center because I didn't need to. But I did Reiki. I stayed at the hostel. I met so many new people. I would do some side trips with some of the volunteers, went to their homes, and just became like part of the culture, part of the community.
So travel there, you didn't have a rental car at that point.
No, I just used the trains
Mm-hmm.
and got around that way. And the trains, buses, ferries. That's how I got around.
So when you went across the pond, like that.
I used, yeah, I got from the UK to Ireland. I took a ferry. That was the first time I got seasick. The waves were really high, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I never get seasick. I love waves." But but it was the best trip. That's what, and so now I'm writing a book. Everyone's like, you have to write a book. And I'm like, oh yeah, yes, I do. So I'm in the process.
So that is interesting. So have you always been someone that writes? Because you said earlier something about writing stuff down, and is journaling part of your life or
Yeah, writing is like a big part. I love writing. I wrote as a kid. I tried to write a song for a band called the Rain Chorus because I didn't want to be just a groupie, but it turned into a poem inspired by their music. So from there, I kind of used music as my muse. I would like turn on a song of an artist and just put it on repeat, come up with a song or come up with a poem. And then I started doing road trips because I like to travel. So I'm like, I'm going to take this musician, their poem, and go to their concerts. So some were local, some were like, I think my first road trip was to Champaign, Urbana to see Vance Gilbert. And I delivered my poem to him. I think I went to see Richard Elliott and Craig Chiquiko. They were at the Indiana Roof Ballroom. I had to give Richard his poem, not like we're on first name basis, but I was like delivering his poem. And then I wrote a poem about that night and I sent it to both of them. And then Craig Chiquiko emailed me back and I'm like, oh my gosh, because he used to be with Jefferson Starship.
oh
And
my
I
goodness.
Yes, I guess it was easy to get emails back then. So then I started doing stories and blogs and essays and letters to the editor. But the thing that helped me the most, because up till then, most people have been like, yeah, I love your stuff. But showed my work to an artist I met at a bar. And he goes, I like it, but this could be improved. That could be improved. What do you mean by this line? And he was the first person that questioned me. So then I'm like, I should probably take some classes, go to some critique groups. So I joined the Indianapolis Writers Center, took classes, did the critique groups, um, just started trying to develop my writing more. Eventually, like now I have a Patreon site where I kind of combine you can get remote Reiki and writing, but I kept writing and writing. My background's marketing and PR, so I did a lot of feature stories. So that kind of used my writing. But it was just, I always am journaling, I'm always writing.
Um, that is very interesting. So the other things we haven't gone back in your sort of your story, because of the energy stuff, even the animal communication, the energy drawing, the Reiki, those are all things that was that something that always interested you? Like how how old were you? I'm like, what's your history with all of those? Because that's all like psychic energy and all of those.
Yeah, it wasn't really on my radar to begin with. I'm a minister's kid. So like none of that, I wasn't exposed to any of that. And then after my dad passed, and that was like in my early 20s, I kind of started exploring and I did the psychic class. I went to a presentation on aromatherapy, and there
Mhm.
was some lady there also talking about Reiki, and she needed a brochure done. So she wanted to do a trade with me. Like I would do the brochure and then I would get Reiki. And I thought she meant a Reiki session. And so after I did the brochure, she goes, well, I have a class coming up. I forgot whatever date she said. I'm like, I don't want to learn it. I just want to get on your table. And she goes, no, intuitively, I think you're going to use this. And I said, no, really, I do not want to learn this. Like I was trying to resist, and she wouldn't take no for an answer. So I thought, well, I want my end of the bargain. So I took her class and then I was hooked. Like I took the next class and I took the master class and did Reiki circles at her house so I could practice. And then someone wanted to learn it, like and level 3, not just level 1. I'm like, I am not going to teach this. I don't want to teach it. Oh, come on, just teach it to me. It was my friend. So I taught her and attuned her, and then other people wanted to learn it. So I thought, okay, I guess this is what I'm meant to be doing. So I resisted it at first. And then once I got into that, I think I was more open and wanting to learn so much more. But I don't think it was until my dad passed that I really maybe felt like I could explore that.
Hmm, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can say from my background, you know, it was a far reach for me to be interested in any of those things. So I understand that completely. Um,
Right.
so in this podcast is called Bloom Where You're Planted, and I always ask everyone what that means to them. So what does it mean to you?
And I had to think about that. I'm like, what does this mean to me? So I kind of thought about it, and I think for me it means like start where you are, regardless of your circumstances. And you don't have to be perfect at something. Just start and just like do the best with whatever you've got. Because like if we wait for things to be perfect, we could be waiting like forever. And there's many times when I'm not even sure. Well, my first job with PR and marketing, like I didn't even know how to write a press release really. Um, so it's just like I just had to jump in. And I think it's like take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves, like don't hold back, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. I'm kind of a perfectionist at times, so I have to let that one go and allow myself to make mistakes. And I think just kind of embrace where you are, use your gifts and talents, and just kind of like embrace where you are.
Hmm,
Don't wait for things to be perfect.
that's excellent. So you've done a lot of different things and are doing a lot of different things. So if someone were to say, I want to do this that you're doing or have done, what words of wisdom, advice would you give to them?
I would say, like, be curious, learn, like, surround yourself with like minded people, people who are doing what you want to do, find like a mentor or someone that can teach you these things. Or for like my writing, if I'm surrounding myself with other writers, I'm inspired. For me, it was like what you resist persists. So maybe pay attention to that. Like if you keep pushing something away and it keeps coming back, maybe there's a reason to explore that at least for that moment.
Hmm.
I think, yeah, and the whole thing about you don't have to go it alone. Like you can get help from someone, like I said, like a mentor, someone who's done it before. Even myself, because I still don't do this just full time. I have like a part-time job. So I was asking another Reiki person, like, how did you get to the point where you're full time? And she was giving me like tips and advice. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, asking people, or if you find someone who's successful or successful at what you want to do, like interview them and just say, how did you get here? What tools did you use, spiritual or otherwise? And for writing, like read other people's work. That really helps me.
Mm,
And then I
exactly.
think too, like don't underestimate the impact you can have by reaching just one person. Because sometimes you may feel like, oh, is someone actually reading this or am I making a difference? But I always think of that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, where like actions, his actions made a huge difference. It was like a ripple effect. So you can't underestimate, even if you're just reaching one person, you can't underestimate the impact, and like just keep doing what you're doing.
That is excellent. Um, so what is next for you? Um, sounds like your book is in process. So any new goals? It's a new year. As we're recording this, it's the start of 2023.
Right. I definitely want to continue with my book. I kind of stopped for a while, so I want to keep continuing with my book. I want to grow and expand my Patreon site. I want to add things that will be more beneficial for patrons. I would like to add a podcast either to Patreon or just do a podcast. I have no idea how to do one, but again, I'll just ask people. I'll Google. Like I I will figure it out somehow. I just got to like take those little steps. The first step, I would like to I do the animal communication, and I really like, because I can talk to animals that have passed over, that have crossed over. So I would like to do more with that. And I have a friend who just retired from hospice. So we were thinking about doing some kind of workshop that would combine the grieving process with the animal communication. So I do want to explore that with her and just build my Reiki clientele. Like I could reach anybody in the world. So just building that up. I don't know if I'll get this all in 1 year, but I would like to submit some to the Moth Radio Hour and travel more. The
To the
Moth Radio Hour on
moth.
NPR. It's a storytelling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'd like to do that and travel more with my work. And do something for creatives. I would like to create some kind of package for creatives because they're my people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that would be Reiki, energy drawings. I'm not sure what that would look like, but something that would benefit like creative people, musicians, artists, writers.
Well, you're in the right place right now. That's our main focus is
Yeah.
creative people and entrepreneurs. I always say that entrepreneurs are in there because you have to be creative to do that. You're not taking a cookie cutter business. You're starting from scratch, and that takes a lot of creativity. So,
Right.
well, I wish you the best on all of those things, and you've been a wonderful guest. A lot of inspiration. 8 months in Europe. Amazing. So I want to thank you, Judith, for joining us. And I'm sure that we will talk again and get an update on where you're at and all of your many things that you're interested in and doing. So again, I want to say thanks. And I think our time is about come to a close. And so the best to you. And so this is Laura Womack from the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, sponsored by Never Too Late Cafe, saying bye for now. Bye, Judith.
Bye. Thank you.